And now what the answer becomes for Care, obviously going to be that question, and opting to just continue to commit to that dive. The Aurora gave them a bit of an out, could have potentially been something a little less, but for the Galio, they are just going fully in. I think that Kai'Sa ban on this second phase for LGD is going to go, would be pretty darn good for them, because so far it's triple dive for FPX. Best AD carry to help with that is just that Kai'Sa.
True. I would like to think on one of those pages in that long, long notebook, there's just a page of a circle. And that's the theme of FPX right now. We're in the second phase, though.
Yeah.
The Draven ban towards Shaoye, very particular towards his comfort. You get the Ashe taken away from Assume, and he will not be able to have that kind of utility to set up the rest of the team.
Yeah, and I mean, if they're just banning out the utility marksman, then maybe the Jhin gets taken off the board next as well. So,
God, what a world.
Yeah, I know, a Jhin ban, especially...
World.
There was a little bit of a buff happened over. Misfortune's also something that they might want to try to take off the board as well. So a couple of options, and it's also worth saying that the Galio could potentially get flexed down into that support role if they want to make things a little spicier and go for a bit more of an aggressive bot lane duo. Still expected to be in Care's hands though, and for FPX, now comes their choice. They've got the pick of the litter with AD carries. Do they want to keep going for dives? Do they want to help something with layering over the top? And it looks like they're going for a little bit of early game dominance as well.
And just setting up with that layering you're talking about, that bullet time over top of all these Venn diagrams is going to be very detrimental to LGD's composition around the objectives and things along those lines as well. So look to see FPX try to push that tempo, push that pressure, but now LGD maybe looking for a little follow through for this kind of damage profile. They have some single target CC lockdown, now trying to find things to be able to burst that target down.
And I wonder if this is just Renata here for LGD. Well, I no longer wonder. It's not Renata. But the Rel getting locked in gives them an element of engage as well here. I was looking at the FPX side and just thinking they are so forward going that some sort of disengage might work out well. But instead, YCX decides he wants that Rel, wants to be able to dive forward and find some engages, help out Climber in this one. And if we're seeing this, fully cemented by LGD, they're going for their own set of diving as well. Some good backline with the Ezreal locked in. Some good backline with the Talia as well. So LGD with that nice little front and back, where FPX seems to be just all front, all go, no gas, no brakes.
Hey, and if there's an FPX style, I'll take it. And it is the all gas, no brake style. Now, the Ezreal is interesting here. I definitely think I would have liked the Kai'Sa a little bit more. The lack of range, maybe the lack of safety there being the big ticket item that LGD wanted to adapt towards, because I think Shaoye can have a lot of impact just peppering in those mystic shots, but it's going to be a while till he's very impactful on his team. So I'm looking at kind of LGD to hold on for a lot of FPX's aggression.
Yeah, they are going to have to sort of sit back and absorb a little bit, but I do think as we get later on into the game, they're going to find that the fights become a lot easier. LGD definitely have that slightly better scaling composition. They've got that element of range with the Ezreal and the Talia as well with that Unraveled Earth. It's going to make the engages quite difficult for FPX as well. Xin Zhao notoriously very good in the early game, but can struggle as the game gets later. And for FPX, right, if this game does go late, it's going to be in the hands of that top laner Xia that we'd been highlighting to begin with as one of those big ticket win conditions.
Yeah, exactly. That's where we were kind of putting our biggest focus on in trying to figure out how much impact these guys would have. I think it's funny, we want to focus on both the top and all the way at the bottom at support, but two very impactful roles for teams that have struggled in this split too. These are not the best of the best teams, but these are teams scrapping it out for an attempt and a try at being in Group Ascend, staving themselves off of that Group Nirvana darkness that we talked about earlier. And this win would sink you into a best of 3 in the upper bracket here in this qualification section and put you that much closer to Group Ascend itself. We're off to the races here, and we're off for the night here at LPL. It is going to be LGD versus FPX in this best of 1. Oh my god.
It's definitely quiet. Yeah. Not what I expect from an LPL game, but it's not the end of the world.
It is the end of the world. That was cool. That was porcelain Lux. That was kind of cool. Had the little rabbit on her head, which is so cute. So cool.
We love a good rabbit.
True.
I think for this game, Mazel, right, we've highlighted the FPX of the team that have a little bit of a burden of execution on them. I think that's not unfair to say that If they want to win this game, they're going to have to go out and win it themselves. If LGD want to win this game, they can just sit back and wait till 30-40 minutes and probably be fine with that. So it's eyes on Shadow, right? One of these players who has been in the LPL for quite some time at this stage, has been working his way quite significantly to try to make it a success, and has not had that success so far.
Yeah, I think his biggest shot, I mean, he was on LGD, funny enough, for a little while after he had spent that time on Mad Lions. But I think his first big shot came on NIP, at least, where it felt like he was trying to join the fold of a pretty decent team. Unfortunately, he had to bow out a little bit, then ended up being a sub for a while. And now he's back. He's trying to find that rhythm. Right back again, but honestly been a story that I've really appreciated, especially as a transfer from kind of the EMEA region over back into the LPL from having been there before. And I think it's really cool now for him to go up against Climber, where we actually get the kind of duality of their stories of Climber trying to be that next iteration of a attack aggressive jungler that can find picks and be a carry.
Yeah, and already with a nice hook down on that bot side, we're seeing Jwei and Assume use that level 2 advantage to their advantage exactly, but to carry on, right? The Climber is that next generation almost of LPL junglers, and to show, yeah, he's had a year in the LPL at this stage, but from just split 1 to split 2 already, so much growth, so much development between not just these splits, but between this year and last year. The upward trajectory has netted him a decent position in this LGD roster, and I think a decent reputation for 2025 so far, and it's about him continuing that build path and continuing to build on his own legacy of the LPL.
We'll see if they want to get to skirmishing early, as both junglers coming to the ends of their first paths. We had those same side stars pathing up towards top lane. I want to take a look at this top lane matchup a little bit more. No flash there for Sheer. He went with that Ignite TP combo as well, and it's the Conquer versus Grasp matchup.
Yeah, so typically as well, we've started to see Gwens go for the exhaust, but this is Sheer opting into just kill threat, right? And maybe thinking a little later about denying the recall from Shaoye. Will Jwei have to flash? Okay. But I think flash for flash between the supports is worth there, especially for Jwei, because his AD carry got to base.
Oh, the flash to counter-strike, the Vault Breaker, and Sheer goes down. LGD first blood right under the nose of FPX.
Oh, and that's one of those criminal timings to get ganked on there by Sheer. It's, 3:30 junglers gank. That's the rule, is as soon as they finish their full clear, they're free. They can do what they want, and they make the play happen on the top side. Sheer TP's back onto that top lane. Sasi as well, with the flash expended, now a little bit more vulnerable, but all the more beneficial because he's got a couple of 100 gold extra in his back pocket for it.
Climber did really even have to use anything for that as well. Thought maybe the flash Vault Breaker would have to come through, but now Shadow trying to put pressure.
You gotta respect the timing. You gotta respect the timing, okay? He's in trouble, though.
He's not gonna have the Vault Breaker. He's gonna be in some trouble as well. He does have a decent amount of damage with that tunneler, but look how many members are at least combining onto him. But it's gonna be the Krug taken by Shadow there. Climber did have to burn his flash.
And this is, again, a little bit of a, by proxy of what happened in that bot side, where Jwei held the wave, was allowing Assume to get a recall in. This MF, even though it's only a call, still has a little bit of an advantage over the Ezreal, and even just a refreshed mana pool, it's going to feel pretty decent as well. This is out on 3 melee creeps in the mid lane to make that roam happen, but again, they burn the flash from Climber, so going to be something that they're looking at, and maybe something that they look to punish now. With Climber and Sasi both not having flashes, Grub spawning in about 45 seconds, you would like to see FPX try to make something happen in this top lane, and try to make something happen around these objectives. A reminder, it's their composition that needs to do things early.
It is indeed, and Care not having flash is also going to be something they have to think about moving forward, because he's got those kind of flash taunt combos and things along those lines. But the grubs are coming up. We're probably going to see full adaptation from both sides. We already got the back going in from Shaoye. Assume is heading out the mid lane as well, but the first spawn of grubs looks like we're going to get a little bit of scuffling.
Yeah, and remember that this is still level 4 MF making her move up to that top side. We're not going to see the big bullet times. It's if either of these solo laners can tick over to level 6. Sasi's already there. XQW as well, so Eyes going to be on that needlework from Sheer, potential hero's entrance from Care as well. Climber already started this one up. Shadow's here.
Oh, he
Steal.
missmited it. Oh no, Shadow just instantly flashed to get the 3 talent strike here. He just has the 1v1 pressure. Vault Breaker will get away, but that's FPX taking the grubs, and they're going to get all 3 of them.
Let's look at the map movement as well. FPX will secure these 3 grubs, so that's a win for them. But there's going to be a wave down in that bot side that is going to be missed out on a little bit of. Looks like Sheer recalled and making his way down to, or he's making his way down to that bot side. Depending on how much of it he can catch, it's actually a world where this is just extremely beneficial for FPX. And despite LGD attempting to make that first move, might have actually shot themselves in the foot just with a slightly bad smite.
That feels so bad. I think it was like 25 is what I saw it on before it went down. That's going to feel real bad, but you got to keep on going. You still have that little lead for Glimmer right now in the 1v1 matchup in the jungle setup, but Dragon is up. I do want to see FPX kind of push that and try to get the stacking started for themselves. They're transitioning across the mid lane now.
Yeah, they're going to have to, right? They need to start making these plays once again, and maybe just a little bit more aggressively, right? 3 grubs is a great start, but it's not going to win you this game. And with that in mind, FPX start to take those resets. But I think they're probably waiting for the cash in on the cull from Asum. He's taken this pretty large pit stop to delay his power spike. That BT typically so important for Misfortune, but it's for the benefit of a slightly bigger mid-game payout. Something that is going to need to pay out big, or otherwise they will just end up getting outscaled and not really having the foothold in this game they need to take it to the late game.
Dude, how is Asum so far leveled down than Shaoye? He's like half a level down, just not able to get into the minion range there, but should be catching up here rather shortly.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it was just a mid wave that he got dropped, because it's about 1 wave of XP that I think he's down here. And overall, you just miss like 1 or 2, 3 minions every single wave, or like for 1 or 2 waves. It does add up quite significantly. And Assume just in a little bit of a trough here with the experience, but overall, once again, reminding us of the stakes at play for both of these 2 teams. This isn't just a best of 1 in regular season. This is a best of 1 to put yourselves in an upper bracket. Best of 3 to make sure that you don't have to play in the Nirvana group. The group of, honestly, like, every Worlds people talk about like group of death and stuff. Nirvana is literally group of death, just domestically.
Yeah, exactly. With more teams than normal, it feels like too. But yeah, like imagine you can literally be done with it tonight. You can be done and think about your group ascend journey tonight if you can have a good performance. You can have solid back-to-back games. And we'll see which team rises to the occasion here. I will say, I'm really bothered by Asum still having 3 biscuits in his inventory. He's going to use them one day. He's going to be a hungry boy. He hasn't eaten any of his snacks.
Hey, man, that's 15 gold and 15 max mana sat right there. Don't you snuff your nose at the power of 3 biscuits. Maybe an attempt to
eat them! Dive? I want to see them eaten. They might actually be able to with that wave crash there. Care is going to stop the back. Oh, caught window shopping a little bit. Was XQW. That's 4-man dive. Drew Jump Barrage hits Assume. Sheer going to hit a nice little combo there as well. And they end up getting the kill to Shadow. That's the person you'd want the gold on as well. And turret plates going down. That's going to be multiple and a ton of gold going the way of FPX.
So this is good. This is the type of heads-up play that we were looking to see them play and take. Looks like they're going to lose out on that dragon and maybe a little bit of push in the mid wave as well. So this is gold going into Shaoye, one of the highlights of LGD. But if FPX can break down this whole turret, this is a very worthwhile exchange for them. So much gold
crazy.
In all of those plates. 10 minutes in. Incredible.
That's so much gold. Like it's only 1,000 lead. But to just have that funnel in at 10 minutes where you can still pick up plates elsewhere, I mean, that's huge. And now you also have a little bit of an unlocking factor on what this top lane leads out to the rest of FPX's map state.
And hopefully, right, FPX can begin to leverage this, right? They've given up 1 dragon. Would like to see them probably not give up really any more and then move into this mid game with a couple of Drakes stacked up and a power play onto XQW.
He's going to try to Weaver's Wall out of there, but there's no hope. FPX, they are dominating in Shadow. He's feeding off of his performance from just last night.
some good plays early on here for FPX, and this is the right momentum that they need. They are sort of sacrificing those neutrals, which I do think are quite important for them. But the idea is they get gold, then they can fight the neutral objectives a little bit later. And there are 5 plates down on this bot side, and we've seen their propensity to head for these plates anyway.
Yeah.
Those 3 grubs early on, going to do some good work. I mean, the first 2 to 3 plates are going to get absolutely melted.
Yeah, and you're giving gold to Shadow and Sheer. Honestly, the wombo combo of FPX here, as the rest of LGD going to move up towards top side. Trying to get this dive onto Care. I think Care might be able to get the minions here, but he's gone a little bit too far. He's going to get the taunt. He's tanky, but not tanky enough. The turret can't ramp fast enough, and the beautiful dive comes through from LGD.
A trade once again. So this is going to be turret for LGD, probably turret down on that bot side as well. And Sheer looks to have been funneled a significant amount of these plates. Not quite sure of the total distribution between Sheer and Shadow, but Sheer is getting a lot of solo gold. And again, for a player who we've been excited by, have said maybe that this is the best part of this FPX roster, the brightest star that they've got on their side. We're expecting very, very good things from him, being funneled so much gold, so many turrets as well. And despite Care going down on that top side, LGD didn't quite commit enough members, didn't quite commit the right resources, and find that they didn't actually get that tier 1.
And the reason to be so excited about Sheer is because in split 1 he didn't really show up. Like I'm gonna say that outright. Like I think FPX was in a pretty sad state in some regard. I think there were some performances that you're like, oh my god, wait, what's going on? But I think majority you're like, okay, what happened to Sheer? What's going on? And I feel like this split he's definitely more enabled. It is still just a small advantage. Like even though Sheer has gotten like almost 2 full plates, turrets of plates, he's only like 600 gold up of Sasa.
Yeah, and I think that Sasa as well has been sharing in some of the rewards from LGD, right? Like he actually picked up that kill in that top side, and or picked up, you know, at least a decent amount of gold for it, and then some of the plates as well. And now trying to find this 1 versus 1. I mean, Sheer as well, we have to remember, did get ganked very early and taken down at that level 4 330 marker. So this has been a big comeuppance for Sheer, and now Shadow sort of sniffing about, trying to find Climber, and yeah, I think Climber reading better into that one, just saying, yeah, my bot side jungle unfortunately is not mine.
It does not exist for me any longer. We are on first item spikes for everybody here. Bloodthirster did end up getting completed for Assume. We do have the Sundered Skies for both junglers. Going to feel a lot more confident to take some of these skirmishes in between fights. We do also have more objectives to come up. The 3 grubs did go the way of LGD, as well as that first dragon. So they have been doing a good job of recouping some of these objectives for themselves. It's like LGD might have an easy turret take in the top side as well, but about 50 seconds for that next dragon to spawn. Rift Herald in about 2 minutes.
I do want to take a little bit of time before that, and before those neutral objective fights start to pop off, to look at some of those key members that we've been trying to highlight in those supports, right? Jwei has had 1 year in the LPL, feels like he's come into 2025. Hold on.
Okay, maybe they just find Care.
Okay,
and,
there we go.
All right, you'll take the pick.
Nice and easy. And, you know, like I was saying, Jwei, one of these players who's played for a split or played for a year, has come into this year quite well. And for YCX, 5.5 years in Tier 2. This is his first year in the LPL proper. And for a rookie support up against Jwei, who's only a little bit more experienced, both of these 2 players need to find those engages and need to be those big engagement factors for their team. And I think that this game in particular, Jwei has a little bit more emphasis on him with that Nautilus. There's not as much initial follow-up or initial engage. So Jwei has a pretty big task on his shoulders to find the correct fights and the correct targets.
And I think as the LPL, like, people have been looking for the next generation of supports for a long time. Like, it does not feel like we've necessarily gotten the next iterations of the Makos, the Crisps, things like that. And I think it's so difficult to make your name known and support, especially if you don't have command and control and that experience, at least. So that's why I love to see some of the growth we've seen from these 2 guys, specifically this split, and especially that they get more games here that are going to turn into best of 3s here really quickly. I think that might be the biggest boon of all the teams that get to do these games, is that there is just physically more games to play, more experience to be had for these teams that are in 3rd places and that are having those kind of developmental rosters.
And I think that to sort of like slightly harken back to what it means to qualify here. Hold on, another fight.
Okay, Weaver's Wall's coming across. Jwei and Shadow on the other side of it. Crescent Guard gonna buy a lot of time. Re-engage from Jwei. Heroic entrance coming in. That's the 3 knock-up special that Climber just got hit with. Now it's YCX in the middle of everybody, and his life is forfeit. The martyr of LGD. See if they can try to defend a little bit here. As the last needlework going to be dashed for there, but that's Rift Herald going the way of FPX.
Yeah, YCX will fall for the sins of his team there, just throws his life in and says, okay, I'll be the one to go down, you guys stay alive, keep farming, keep getting that XP. It's going to be Rift Herald picked up, though, for FPX, and Care as well, sniffing around on this bot side, trying to deny Climber any sort of avenue back to get some gold. And if they can deny this tier 1 turret going down as well, that'll be even better, but Care, it's a big task to try and stop this from happening.
It is. He's been in this situation 3 times already in this game. See if he can this time make his way out of it. And he does. Makes a difference when you got some tanky items there, doesn't it?
Nice and easy for him. Actually, as it turns out, cease and desist used as well. Grandmaster's Might went down, so that's 2 ultis committed by LGD to get nothing. And FPX, I think, can continue to be happy with how the pace of this game is going. Yes, it's not a rampant, explosive mid-game that they've gone into, but they are, by all accounts, ahead at that mid-game marker where they needed to be.
Yeah. And how are we feeling about the scaling objective for LGD? Are you okay with this little lead going the way of FPX because you're not that far behind?
Yeah, I think the neutral objectives is the real big kicker for me if I'm FPX. If I'm LGD, I'm quite happy, right, that we're 1-1 on Drakes, and that's not necessarily a bad place to be in. We've got effectively 15 minutes before we need to fight, before we give up a soul of any description, which might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. But this is something that's going to be really, quite scary for them. The heads-up play from Jwei there curbs the ulti so that he can knock up Climber as well. Fully channeled bullet time onto XQW means that he can never really get involved in the fight either. Zoom, really nice timing, making sure that he's timing his ulti for the knock-up from that Nautilus as well.
Just the CC chaining there is so disgusting. Now Climber gonna find Shadow there. Shadow a little bit stronger in the 1v1 for now. Shaoye is on his way though with Sasi coming down as well. Gonna get Crescent Guarded out of his counter strike. Wind becomes lightning and Shadow wants a fight. Shaoye also going to look for a little bit of something, but he gets dredge-lined, buffered out of it with his arcane shift. And FPX, we're putting pressure on this top side, but won't find any picks with it. Do get a couple abilities using some ultimates.
Yeah, Shaoye has been really good at using that arcane shift to get out of Jwei's engages. But other than that, it's looking still pretty decent for FPX, right? Dictating how that topside play goes down, making sure that their jungle is, their jungle in their own right is nice and clear, but also that the jungle they're trying to invade onto is getting lit up like a Christmas tree.
Oh, Sasa caught in the side lane. Heroic entrance, dude. There's literally the same combo we just saw earlier used on a YCX. And it works again. FPX go all 5 into the top lane looking for a tier 2 turret.
Knock up into knock up, and LGD not quite ready. Don't quite have the answers just yet. XQW.
Shadow's in a lot of trouble here. You might look for the fight back on XQW. XQW needs to be a little bit more careful there. They did defend the tier 2 tower though, and that's pretty big.
Yeah, it is. I think that Care sort of posturing aggressively there, and honestly the whole of FPX just sat chomping at the bit behind that wall. Made it a little bit more scary for LGD to go for that fight than they might have liked. And at the end of the day, they're trying to pick off a target who's already at this stage quite tanky, just with the Sundered Sky, excuse me.
There you go.
And the healing that you get from that plus Conqueror can be a little bit tricky to take down.
God, I don't miss Divine Sunder.
They made them so similar and gave them such similar names.
And they're both weapons. So,
yes.
The subconscious tie-in. Dragon is being taken up by FPX right now, though. It would be a second for them. It is an Infernal, so fitting for the Phoenix if they want to keep stacking that one up. But again, we go back to what we said from draft. This team needs to put the pedal to the metal in every way possible to try to keep their head above water that LGD is working for. So now, onto the map with no real objectives coming up, but LGD trying to keep presence around this top side river and enemy jungle.
I think my concern for LGD is that they don't have the damage to get through Care. That this Ezreal probably will get to a 3-item point, right? That Muramana is pretty much there. But Ezreal, not the greatest of tank killers, needs a lot of time to try and get through them. Natalia as well opting into this Liandry's helps them out a little bit, but it is going to be a tricky position to take out this FPX composition, because not only do you have to get through all of Galio's health bar, you then have to get through Crescent Guard Xin Zhao and through Hallowed Mist Gwen. Like, there's so much sort of zone control as well as tankiness that LGD might actually struggle all the way through.
So I guess my biggest curiosity is, what is Sauce's job here? Is it to stop Sheer? Is it to jump on Assume so he can't get a big bullet time? Is it to buffer for the rest of the team composition? I'm trying to figure out how. Obviously in side lane we know what his job is, but in these team fights,
I think he's got options, and I think that if you can keep Shaoye and XQW alive, it probably means that LGD end up winning out in this fight, in these games, because there's nobody that can take him down.
Another buffer. They got the heroic entrance combo there, but Shadow's a little bit caught out. Crescent Guard going to be there, but he's going to flash over the wall. Going for the fight over on a Climber. Climber's going down, and now the bullet time onto 3. Gets a little bit of chunks on LGD, but it's just continuous one-kill win fights for FPX over and over again.
And importantly, despite these kills going over, they've not really been able to break open those objectives, right? That tier 1 turret still stands in the mid lane, and yes, they're able to find a dragon earlier on, but these are all very inconsequential kills that are coming through. Just a couple of 300 gold injections here or there may prove to be the deciding factor as we move into those team fights where we're going to see larger scale 5 versus 5s. But for the time being, FPX are just kind of coasting along, and I do get scared for them.
We're going to take a look back at the initial fight. Both the buffer there, but as well as the engage onto Shadow.
Yeah, and it's just not quite a correct target to go for. We see that Crescent Guard come through. The fact that we end up with Climber on this side of the wall just gives a free out as well, which is always pretty tricky.
Whoa!
Again.
Shadow goes across the Weaver's wall. YCX caught. How does this just keep happening to LGD, a team that we've lauded for some of their togetherness, the plays we've seen, and they are getting split in half here by FPX.
Still bound by this mid wave. Shaoye trying to step up, but FPX move their way toward the Atakan. And that's going to be the objective sort of picked up without really any recompense, it looks like.
Whoa.
How
did he get there?
The Weaver wall maybe did a little bit of work.
Yeah, but he was on the other side. That we're going to have to check that one out a couple more times.
Oh, goodbye.
Jwei's going to have some time to check that one out potentially. That he's in the death realm. Roses are going to go the way of FPX, though, as well as the Atakan. They must get all of them, or at least try to. They go back in for the fight. Shadow's almost dead. Crescent Guard to buy time. He's just outside of the range, but the Vault Breaker is going to get the kill. Climber goes for the combo with the cease and desist there on to Assume. XQW throwing rocks and going ham. Now Shaoye, he's chased down the remaining members of FPX. Heroic entrance is used, but he's going to be chased down by Shaoye too and LGD. They're right close to the lead, and this is a problem for FPX.
Just as we thought that FPX had got their sort of ideas of how to play the game together, they weren't quite able to convert cleanly. Jwei gets caught out looking for a Hex Flash angle for a fight, assumes bullet time goes completely wide, and then Shadow throws his life away in an attempt to bail out the rest of his team. I'm curious as to see whether or not they could have just exited out here through this top side, but maybe Shadow's just sort of thinking, we're strong enough, we can take this fight, but then Sasi ends up with a nice double stun, which really disrupts their fight. Cease and desist comes through, meaning that Assume has no real chance to take this. And Shaoye as well, 1v1 in Care, who's 2 levels above him. Definitely not something that you're looking for.
I'm just so, like, those fights are so ridiculously scattered. Like, Shaoye was on the biggest flank as the ADC. Things are getting chaotic. That's what we came to the qualification stage for here. And now we get to see this chaos unfold just right behind the leader, LGD. FPX, they're feeling the heat, and now they go for an engage. Oh my god, the magnetic hook. Bullet time over top of it. This is the combo that they're waiting for, and these are the moments that they capitalize on. They're looking for the turret now.
Open the playbook, Mazel. Page 42. Circles, baby. They found them. It happened! They got the wombo combo. Jwei plus Assume link up. They find Needlework over the top, and that might just net them the Baron.
Dude, what is this game? It is just going back and forth, and then FPX just slammed the door out of nowhere. And this is going to be like a 1,000 gold lead that gets ballooned so highly if they can utilize the Baron buff efficiently. They've already got a push starting to build in the top side too to look at a tier 2 up there. Meanwhile, Dragons will be evened up by LGD while they take the bot side jungle of FPX.
Yeah, and I think that they, as FPX now, need to take at least all of the tier 2s. There's so much gold sat in them that they can just leverage that to win fights in the future. They're not really close to a soul win condition. That Infernal Soul would do so much work for them, but they aren't there yet. They're not really in a good position for it, and they're going to take a little bit of time to get there. So hammering home an advantage in this stage is going to be the really important part. We get to see another glimpse of Jwei.
Dude, well, what?
I think Fog was doing a lot of work there to keep us from seeing quite how extended that Nautilus hook was.
I saw it go very far to the left, Rude. I don't know.
Yes. Yes. There's gonna be a Twitter screenshot later on.
There's that and how the hell Rel got on the other side of the Weaver's Wall. We already racked up 2 of them. We're only 1 game in. You'd love to see it.
For FPX, right, the win early sort of necessity has now largely been met. They, find a good engage, but it's all back to Jwei, that player who's had a year in the LPL but has had so much development and growth just in 2025 as XQW looking for something.
You caster cursed him. He gets the Weaver's Wall. Okay, he's going to be fine. Shadow's taking the fight into YCX now. Oh, TP's coming in. Sasa on the flank of a Century is going to be spotted by the TP coming in. Oh my god, Jwei, call him Spider-Man right now. Or else, Sasa, you have to counter-strike out. Bullet time over top, and there's the Venn diagram of doom that FPX have put together. Might as well call it a fire pit because the Phoenix is alive and well. They're right on to the next turret here as they have easy pickings as this Baron buff is still up for another minute for them.
And Shadow bullied out Shaoye. Double summoner spells burned on the Ezreal, which we didn't quite see was caught off screen. But the Ezreal not able to contribute to that fight. Didn't have the peel, didn't have the protection of his front line. And if you don't have that, then your entire composition breaks down. This requires concise front-to-back team fighting, which is not something that LGD have.
They just used the Gwen immune to burst down that turret. Shadow's been taking mid lane as well. What did I talk about that burst and bubble that was about to be this gold lead? It went from 1,000 to over 6,000 gold now.
For a chance at a best of 3, which sends them to the Ascend stage. FPX, for me, came into this a weaker prospect, and Jwei, I think, on this Nautilus having a heck of a performance. Making, once again, these flash plays with the Nautilus ulti, and then turning it around with the hook. The foresight, the heads up to know what he's doing, and that, as much as we, meme about Nautilus mechanics, and maybe that hook before was a little bit bogus, that play right there was clinical.
Yeah, that was good. You have to know the buffer time if you're going to be able to execute that kind of stuff, and that's what maybe some of that experience he's garnered over the last couple of years has given him. Now this composition from FPX just gets to run rampant. This lead enables them to just be reckless with their advantages, and now they can just move into this bot side, this mid lane. Looks like they're trying to go for a bit of a 4-1 setup.
If they can break open that tier 3 in the mid lane, they can sort of fluctuate between the waves, use the mid and bot lane together. They don't need to play really through that mid lane with no Baron. Bot side, no turret to take is a lot easier.
Oh, Shadow. Oh, Shadow. Okay, they're going to just pop the emergency button. Oh, my God. They just eliminate YCX. That's your front line. Jwei gets caught by the seismic shove. Nice flash. Counter strike. He's in there. Bullet time is there on a 2, though. And in the middle of the cease and desist. Now it's FPX splitting apart the rest of the fight. But Sasa, he's found another one. He goes down immediately after. Now it's a 2-4-2. If they can find the push, they'll back away. Shaoye trying to pop shots into them now, but that'll be all she wrote here. Massive chaos right in front of the nexus of LGD.
Both teams will take that as a win, right? For FPX, they take down the inhibitor. They've got now that point of pressure for the next 5 minutes. For LGD, they didn't lose the game. And I think that that's honestly the big win that they can take. Shadow here, second time out that he's been maybe just a little bit overzealous. forces the flash from XQW and then ends up maybe baiting in this fight. Again, it's Jwei just picking off YCX, just saying, oh, actually, you are not in a position for anything good. And Sasa finds a 5-man counter-strike, but it's just without the follow-up.
That was the dredge line from the grave. He literally got the pullback after he died, and it pulled him into the bullet time. What the hell was that, Jwei? And I love it. This man's been popping off on the dredge lines. He's been popping off on this Nautilus. And again, he is that glue for this team. It feels like we've seen, especially over these last couple days. It's just the guy that's making things happen and letting everybody play off of him.
Should now be a Baron take for FPX. Work their way into that topside jungle, make sure that they are fully set up around it. Work on that Baron, and I think that for LGD as well, having Sasa catch that bot wave, see how far out he can push it. This is the sort of final Hail Mary for LGD. If they find a fight around this Baron, they can stabilize, keep themselves in this game. If it goes wrong and if they lose this Baron, very real possibility that the game just ends shortly thereafter. So Sasa, push that bot wave in nice and deep. You've got teleport to get up to the play, and then you've got sort of a minute, maybe if you're lucky, to work with before you have to come back answer those next set of super creeps.
Yeah, 4 items being brought up for many, many members here in both sides of things. FPX definitely going to have a bit of advantage across the board. Baron Vision is the target right now for FPX. Maybe not feeling super confident, just rip it now. But once they get these waves pushing, that might change. As they do go ahead and pull it out there. And now it's about Jwei and Care bodyguarding the entrance to this Baron buff. As they will finally see that it's being done. Jwei is getting lower and lower. TP coming in, but the Baron's already gone. Shadow's taking it. Nice engage from YCX, though. But is enough damage going to be there, though? They've already popped one. As now they'll get the other. They'll be able to turn back into the GA there. Glimmer goes down, too. Oh, no, Shaoye. no. Not like this. Shaoye, he's being snipped alive. And Sheer gets himself a fat old triple kill.
FPX are going to go up into that upper bracket. They will play in the upper best of 3 to secure their spot in Ascend after their next game. A Baron fight to end all Baron fights, and FPX come away clean.
Look at the smiles on the FPX faces, the elation in that they ain't even done yet. They started. Look at those smiles, man. How is it not infectious to see this team go at it here? They've had a hell of a last 24 hours. And now we get to see them in a best of 3 against whoever wins the next match there for that spot in Ascend. The story of FPX is just one of blazing glory in the latter half of this first opening part of the split.
And right, they had so much, I'll call it sort of animosity around the early game for that specific best of 1, where they were a little bit timid, a little bit slow, a little bit delayed, but when they needed to, they bit the bullet. They went, okay, now's our time to find the fight. They were patient, they were biding their time, and managed to get in and get out and do exactly what they needed to.
They did indeed. Sheer, looking as young as he is, but still looking damn good on the Rift itself. This combination between him and Shadow has been wonderful to watch, but Jwei had a heck of a performance in this game as well. I have to think about who gets those MVPs, but I have to say, disappointing for LGD. I mean, yes, it's double round robin. They still have a best of 3 to go to in the lower bracket now that they've lost, but this is a team that had such high highs and had such high expectations for a kind of middle of the pack team, and things just haven't been clicking.
No, and it does make their life a little bit more difficult. Obviously, they've now got to win 2 best of 3s to progress into Ascend. And I mean, like we've talked about, being in the Nirvana group is so disastrous just as a concept that 2 teams can't go and play in split 3 in summer. It is a real concern for players, fans, coaches, everybody. If you are supporting this organization, you want them to be in Group Ascend, even if they're going to get smandangled by top of the top. They'll play split 3, and that's a win. So for FPX, taking that first step forward, a very big boon for them.
It is indeed. And I think they'll be very happy, but they're going to have to refocus in. They only have a little break until they have to go into that best of 3, which should be a lot of fun to watch as well. But, man, I just have to say, like, the drafts are working out. It was even on red side. It wasn't even blue side. Like, I'm just imagining back to when Sasa was so excited about winning that 1v1. And now how bad it feels to still lose on the red side, or at least lose on that blue side, lose the red side itself. And now what that means for FPX moving forward in terms of what strategies they can bring out in that best of 3, because we're finally going to get to the fearless section of things here in Split 2.
Yeah, and again, reminder, right, that best of 3s for pretty much all of the Split 2. This is technically Split 2 placements. We're moving into Split 2 proper from next week, the week after, right? We've got the rest of these qualifiers where the best of 3s will start to take place, and some best of 3 practice as well. It's going to go pretty well for them.
I'd say so. Get another headache of a watch at the format rundown of what this split is. But we're right there in the middle. You see the qualifier section? We're right there. We're getting further along. We're moving from left to right slowly but surely. But, you know, FPX getting that much closer to putting themselves within that 10-team roster of Group Ascend, the best of the very best. And they had a cliff that they built and pushed LGD off of, it seemed.
Yeah, I mean, you can just see the slight discrepancy between Shadow and Climber, really. The only real area of the map where it's not what you expect. I mean, Care, low damage percentage, he's playing Galio, right? Like, we're not really that bothered. But the worthwhile mention goes to Shadow for playing so aggressively, it feels like, on this Xin Zhao, and actually having a very decent time of things.
Yeah, he had some really good moments. And moments that begged a couple questions a couple times. We were like, oh my god, why he's being so aggressive? But then it works out for him, or they at least get out and force a couple of spells, or at least force some tools out of LGD. But then, like, it was always the re-engages for me. Like, you always knew it was coming. That's what they drafted this composition for. I said they had a page that was just circles. The circles look damn good, man. Like, it turned out that if you do engage onto a team composition that has invulnerables or at least untargetables, and then you have the heroic entrance on top of it all, like, it just makes it that much harder.
Yeah, I mean, for FPX, sometimes just going back to the oldie but goodies will just work out for you. They went back to a tried and true strategy of wombo combo, and it ended up being exactly what they needed.
The classic anti-dive, at least. But the bullet times on top, I give a little shout out to Assume. Had some really nice layering on top of that. I don't think he at all was the biggest piece to the puzzle here, but still had something to say in it. And these are the kinds of performances that give you a little bit more confidence in an FPX that has wavered that confidence over the last couple months. Yeah,
and maybe Jwei just now becomes the...
Look at that, that's dirty, man. Like, dude, somebody check him PC. There were too many times. There were too many moments.
Yeah, anyway, he's just doing the exact best thing.
Inhuman.
I mean, even in this fight, right, what's happening off screen right now is Shaoye is killing a Nautilus, which, you know, isolated sounds great, but the rest of his team is getting absolutely owned. And you know, spending all of your time on a Nautilus, just not quite what you would have been looking for. Shaoye ends up getting cut down as well. So for the way that game ended up playing out, I think Jwei, for me, should come away with that Pog vote. Certainly up there with definitely one of the most standing players of LGD.
I could see Sheer getting it just for name value, but I would rather see Jwei or Shadow get it 100%. I think that's absolutely
Shadow's the other shout for doing like 2.5 times his enemy jungler's damage and being a good also component for the early game, and how those ended up playing out. So a couple of options for our fan cast and for the votes, but we're going to be sad if it's not one of those two.
Yeah, I would definitely be sad. Although I will say it's fitting that we had so much impact from Jwei when we wanted to highlight him a little bit more, and we get that kind of Nautilus performance. Now, I do wonder, once he gets away from the kind of these this Nautilus, maybe Alistar setup for them as well, what we end up seeing from him. But we end up getting our player of the game. It is Jwei on his Nautilus. So well done there, my friend, and well deserved.
Yeah, numerous very good hooks. Some really solid Nautilus mechanics as well, just with his ulti. You know, not something that you typically think of Nautilus ult mechanics, but they were there.
They were there. Well, that's it for our first game of the day. That is going to be moving us into our second best of one. It's going to be Ultra Prime versus WE. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you there.